T.J. Thomas, Town Council Chair, calling the Town Council special meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Just to let you know, we're holding tonight's special meeting to address the governor's executive orders 7S and 7W. These both relate to tax deferment programs that we'll discuss in a few moments. The reason for these executive orders is quite clear. Many of our residents are in financial distress due to the economic impact of COVID-19. I do want to mention overall, the people of Farmington and Unionville have done an excellent job with their social distancing. They've been generally supportive of each other, and we're now learning to wear masks, which is very nice. Please keep it up and remind those who are falling a bit short that it's for the benefit of our most at-risk community members that we're following these guidelines. And thank you for your patience. We're trying to get updated information out on a regular basis in as many ways as we can, and that includes the Zoom meeting. Please check our town website regularly. If you have any suggestions on how we can improve upon our communication, please let us know. And once again, I'd like to thank the men and women on the front lines of this pandemic. This past Friday and every Friday until it's over, the churches in town will be ringing their bells at 7 p.m. in their honor. And I hope many of you can go outside the front of your house and join in by making some noise. With that out of the way, I'd like to turn it over to Paula Ray for any public comments that have previously been sent in.
Good evening. This is Paula Ray, Town Clerk. There were 2 comments sent in prior to the meeting. The first one was from Michael McLaughlin. Just got the proposed budget for next year with a 2.19% increase. Do you think with all that's going on these days, people out of work and businesses in jeopardy, that we could hold the line on taxes as some other Connecticut towns are proposing? Delaying expenditures for education and town services for another year won't mean they never get done, just postponed till the local and national economy recovers. It would show a lot of caring and thoughtfulness by the council. And a second public comment is from Adriano Meluzzo, and this comment was in response to the United Farmington posting. Town Council, why would you not hold a meeting via Zoom like every other business? This is baloney. I have no confidence in town government that they are looking out for the best interest of the town residents. This is a significant increase during these times. Residents are suffering with unemployment or furloughs. Town budget must make sacrifices too. Expect protests. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you for your comments. And as I think you all noticed, we are doing a Zoom meeting right now, and we'll be discussing the other issue as far as taxes really in our next meeting. We're going to be talking about that. So right now, I will turn it over to Anna for any of the folks out there who would like to participate. And for public comment, please raise your virtual hand and you will be called through, or you could also add through the chat feature. Hold on one second. Wait to be called on. When called on, state your name and address and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
I have a John on. If you could state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Hi, this is John Smicchetti, 29 Copper Mine Road in Farmington. Basically, I was calling in to echo the comments of the first write-in email comment you had. What we need to do is try to hold the line on our mill rate for this year, not only for the condition the country's in the state and the town right now, but also as we prepare to move forward with our high school project. That is going to be increasing our mill rate, and everything we can do to control our budget now will help us as we move forward. So that's really all I wanted to add at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment from the audience? I see no other public comment. Thank you.
Thank you all for your public comments, and we will take all of those into consideration. We are now moving on to item D, consideration of special topics. And Peter, if you would make a motion.
Peter Mastrobatista, that the Town Council approve the attached resolution regarding adoption of a tax deferment program pursuant to the Governor of the State of Connecticut's Executive Orders numbers 7S and 7W.
Joe Capodefaro, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kathy, could you add some clarification on this, please?
Sure. Kathy Blonsky, Town Manager.
Start over? Okay. Kathy Blonsky, Town Manager. Thank you, CJ. On April 1st, 2020, the Governor issued Executive Order 7S, Section 6 of the Executive Order, which deals with property tax relief for taxpayers adversely impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. Executive Orders 7S and 7W require municipalities to offer 4 options to taxpayers for tax relief. They are the deferment program. Under this program, the grace period for any taxes, sewer and waste charges and assessments, taxes, levied between April 1st, 2020 to and including July 1st, 2020 would be extended for 3 months. So the taxes that the town of Farmington will levy on July 1st, 2020, instead of being due by August 3rd, would be due on October 1st, 2020. The town has the option under this program of either offering it to only taxpayers who have experienced financial hardship due to the COVID-19 pandemic during this time period between April 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2020, or the town can offer the deferment program to all taxpayers regardless of the financial status. So those are the 2 options for the deferment, either for all taxpayers or for just people that were affected by the COVID-19. The third program would be the low interest rate program. Under this option, taxes would be due under normal deadlines established by state statute, i.e. taxes due on July 1st, 2020 would be due and payable by August 3rd to 2020. There would be no deferment. However, the interest rate charged on taxes that are not paid by the end of the grace period would be assessed at the rate of 0.25 per month, 3% per year, instead of the normal interest charged of 1.5% per month or 18% per year. The lower interest rate would be in effect from the due date of the tax for 3 months only. So if the town adopted this program, a taxpayer who did not pay their July 1st, 2020 taxes by August 3rd would be subject to an interest charge of 0.25% per month during the 3-month time period, July 1st to October 1st, 2020. If the taxpayer does not pay their taxes during the 3-month time period, then the interest rate reverts to the higher amount, 1.5%, back to the original due date. If adopted, this program would be open to all taxpayers, not just those negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The fourth program option would be both programs. Under the executive order, the town must offer at least one of these options to taxpayers, but can also offer both the tax deferment and low interest programs at the same time. Finally, it should be noted that under the executive orders, tax payments made by banks, mortgage companies, and loan services for escrow accounts of the mortgagees are exempt from both programs. The town council must decide which program or both the town will offer and notify the State of Connecticut Office of Policy and Management by April 25th, 2020 with their decision. Based Based on an analysis of tax and budget impact and the town's cash flow needs over the 3-month period, July 1st, 2020 and October 1st, 2020, staff is recommending that the town offer the 3-month tax deferment program to eligible taxpayers, i.e. taxpayers who have experienced economic hardship during the time period April 1st, 2020 and to time period April 1st, 2020 and to June 30th, 2020. This analysis that led us to this recommendation include the following factors and assumptions. The first one is during the time period between July and October, it is projected that the town and schools will need $38 million to meet their financial obligations, including personnel costs, utility expenses, contractual obligations, and debt service requirements. 2, the difference between the potential tax deferments and cash flow needs will mean that the town will need to draw upon cash reserves of approximately $4 million during this time period. 3, if the financial situation does not improve during this time period and the governor issues additional orders extending the deferments beyond October 1st, 2020, the town would need to further draw down on its cash reserves and/or issue tax anticipation notes. 4, the adoption of the tax deferment program for eligible taxpayers only will have the least negative impact on the proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. It is projected that the adoption of this program will negatively impact the proposed fiscal year 2021 budget by $525,000. This impact would be to delinquent interest income charges, interest income, and tax collection rates. So just so I'm clear on that, right now the budget that we have is short $525,000. It's not a balanced budget based on our projections. 5th, the town council will have to adjust the proposed budget by $525,000 prior to adopting it on May 12, 2020, if the recommended deferment program is approved. In general, really, this is about cash flow for the town of Farmington. When we defer people for paying their taxes of people that have been affected by the COVID issue, what happens is that we will have to front that money to meet our obligations. And according to our finance director, Joe Swetke, we will be short, based on our projections, $4 million. We should be able to front that money by various things, our fund balance, deferring capital projects to be able to do that. But any more, it would be very difficult for us to meet our financial obligations. So for that reason, at this time, we're saying that we would recommend that we defer taxes for people only affected and not do the low interest loan. The reason why we're not recommending the low interest loan is a couple of reasons. One is that it's rather difficult to administer. The second reason is that if someone was affected by the COVID, then they could apply for the other program. So we feel that that would be the way to do it. So at that, I'm going to turn it back to CJ and see if there's any questions.
This is CJ Thomas. Thank you. I just want to do a roll call and make sure we still have all our council members on. I know some have had problems. Brian, are you there?
I'm here.
Brian?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Edward, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Peter, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Joe, are you there?
Joe is present.
Gary, are you there? Gary, can you hear us? I think Gary might have gotten bumped off. Okay, we're going to try and get Gary back on. In the meantime, I'm going to just go through our group here for questions, and we will start, when you're asking questions, we'll direct them at Kathy if she has the answer, if I do. Otherwise, we'll go to Joe if we need to go there for answers. So first, I'll start with Brian. Do you have any questions, Brian?
Hey, I do. I guess the first question I have to ask is, Kathy, how do you anticipate tracking who is eligible and not eligible for tax deferment?
Sorry, one second. We're having technical difficulties. That's what happens when you let me touch the computer here.
Right. So Brian, your question, could you repeat your question one more time for me? Thanks.
Sure. This is Brian Connolly, and my question is, Kathy, I was just curious to understand how you were planning to track who is eligible and not eligible for deferment.
There is a form that the people will have to fill out, and then they will fill out that form and they'll submit it to the tax office. Again, it's not going to be just on the honor system, but we are not going to be going and verifying through bank statements or anything like that. What they are doing is that they have obligations that they have to meet based on this form, and then they'll fill out the form and bring it to the tax office or send it to the tax office.
Okay, are we going to be checking on?
Thank you.
Whether they're
Edward, do you have any questions?
Yes, this is Edward Generos. Yeah, I do have a question. Yeah, I'm glad there's a form and that we're going to have documentation. I think that's very important. My question is, how are we going to communicate this to the community? Because obviously we want to make sure that everyone's aware of it, especially those that are the most needy. And like one idea is maybe for businesses, Rose Ponte could reach out to all the businesses in town and make sure that they're aware of it. But I'm wondering what other things could we do to communicate this besides putting it on the town website?
Yep, one of our, Kathy Blonsky, town manager, one of the thoughts that we have is that, we're in April, so we do have a couple of months to communicate it. So we're planning on doing press releases. We're planning on doing it in Explore Farmington with Rose Ponte. And the other thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit is sending out, we've done it in the past, I wouldn't call it a newsletter, but a small postcard that would go out to the residents that would let them know about that. So I think that would be worthwhile to do. It's not very expensive, and we could just do a postcard and it would tell you how to get the form.
Great, thank you.
We'll now go to Chris.
I don't have any questions, CJ, other than just to acknowledge that I think Brian had a follow-up. So if you want to go back to Brian.
Okay, you can yield the floor to Brian. Brian, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you very much, Chris. Just a little deeper dive into my question earlier about how we were tracking it. Are we looking at employment as not just the financial ability to pay? Because it sounded like it was a financial decision. I'm wondering if whether one or both, if it's a couple of people in a family, if it's one or two of them are not working right now, or what are some of the criteria we're looking at? Kathy, that was, sorry.
Kathy Blonsky, town manager. Let me defer that to Joe Swetsky, please.
This is Joe Swetsky, Director of Finance. Basically, the criteria is for a residential taxpayer, they would have to have their income impacted by at least 20% due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that could be for whatever reason related to it, because they were laid off, furloughed, their hours were reduced, they had to take time away from work to deal with a dependent or somebody who was infected by the virus. For businesses, they have to demonstrate that they've lost 30% of their income in the time period April 1st through June 30th of 2020 versus the same time last year. So, and again, there is a form that the state is requiring us to use for them to complete to demonstrate their economic loss.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. That was helpful.
Thank you, Joe. I'll now go to Gary. Do you have any questions, Gary? Gary, you with us? Okay, I'll skip right to Joe then. We'll get back to Gary. Joe, do you have any questions?
Joe Capitafaro, I do not.
Thank you, Joe. Gary, you there? Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you?
I finally got it up and running on my phone besides the computer. Yes. No, I don't have any questions. I think this is the best way of going. Myself being self-employed, I think this definitely is going to help out a lot of people.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Peter, do you have any questions?
Just a follow-up, and this is back to Joe. This is Peter Mastrobatista. the criteria has been set for the taxpayer to defer their taxes by the state of Connecticut. They wrote the ground rules for all the tax deferments.
This is Joseph Swetsky, the Director of Finance. That is correct. The executive order that the governor put out indicated that the Office of Policy Management would set the guidance for what would constitute financial hardship. So that is the definitions that they issued are the definitions that we would use.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I just want to clarify that. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Does anyone have any follow-up questions from the group? Edward?
Yes, Edward Gianaros. Just one follow-up question for Kathy. Let's say somebody qualifies for the tax deferment, but they can pay part of their they can afford to pay part. Let's say they owe $3,000 in taxes, and they can pay $1,000 when the taxes are due, and then another $1,000 the next month, and then the last $1,000 when the final tax deferment date is. Would we be able to accommodate that type of a situation? Because it seems like that would be beneficial to the town if somebody was in the position where they qualified for it and was willing to pay some of it up front.
Kathy Blonsky, Town Manager. I would say yes, but let me defer to Joe to make sure that he agrees with me.
Joe Swetsky, Director of Finance. Yes, that actually is part of the goal of this is to actually encourage people to, when they can make payments, to make payments. Basically, they would have the 3-month time period to make their payment, either in full all at once or through a payment plan each, a little bit each month or partial each month. So yes, they could do that. We could accommodate that.
That's great, and that will be communicated to them when they submit the form, so that people are aware of that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the questions, all of you. And I'm just going to follow up. I think giving the deferment program seems to be on a number of levels the best way to offer to those in need. I think we're not dealing with the interest rates and the potentially cumbersome process that someone needs to go through or the town needs to go through. So I think we're being favorable to the individuals. We're just offering this to the individuals who are truly in need, which again, to me, seems to be the right thing to do. And yes, we are encouraging everyone who can to pay their taxes in full or in part as soon as they can, because the town only pays its bills based on the tax dollars coming in. And that was brought up by the town manager a little earlier. So we really do want to encourage everyone who is capable of it, of paying their taxes and doing so as promptly as is possible for them. So I'll just follow up before we close out this section. We have heard already that the current proposed 2021 budget will need to be reduced by a minimum of $525,000 prior to adopting it. We've also heard comments from the public, and we've read a number of things in the paper, how other towns are dealing with this budget. The world has changed drastically since we set this budget. We felt very comfortable with a good, strong budget, what seems like a lifetime ago. So we will, at our next meeting, we may be in our May meeting having some discussions on this. So I would request from after, I assume after we're taking our vote, from both the town manager and the superintendent of schools to keep in mind and give us some type of anticipated priority list on capital spending for those meetings. So with that all being said, I will now poll and we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing no nays, the motion passes unanimously. We will now be moving on. After this, our only other item is for collective bargaining, to discuss matters concerning collective bargaining. Peter, could you make this motion? Actually, before we go on to that, I just, as I generally do before we leave this section, I'd like to leave you all with the quote of tonight's meeting. And this one from Desmond Tutu. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. Now, Peter, if you'd make the motion.
Peter Mastrobatista, executive session to discuss matters concerning collective bargaining. The attendance in executive session shall be limited to members of the town council, town manager, and finance director.
Joe Capitafaro, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. The town council is now going